Hi, this is Synthchaser with Synthchaser.com. Today we're going to be restoring a very special pair of ARP Pro Soloists. These used to belong to Bernie Worrell, and he toured with them in the 70s, and he gave them to a band member who put them away, and they haven't been used since. So neither of them are working now, and the customer would like to get them restored. And we're going to make one really nice one out of the two that are here. They each have their own set of cosmetic problems, and we're going to try to combine them, mix and match them to get one really nice one and one working one. This one, Bernie's keyboard tech painted the top of the switches, which were normally just all black. These are the voice select switches. Painted them white, which is very clever because they're kind of hard to see whether they're up or down, and I'd imagine it's even harder when you're on stage. So this way, when a switch is down, you can pretty easily see it. But the paint, it's not a very good paint job, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this case is in a little better shape than this one. This one's kind of beat up. This one unfortunately has some wear from a slider cap, but there's nothing that we can do about that. But we're going to use this case for the restored one, and we're going to take this switch board and swap it with this one, which doesn't have the paint on it. This white switch is broken, so we're going to take the white switch from the other board and put it in there, so we'll get one unpainted switchboard with a not broken white switch in the middle. The side panels, this side panel came off, or came to me detached, and then this keyboard has no side panels. So we've got custom made replacement side panels. So these older ones are going to go on the one with the beat up case, and the new replacement side panels are going to go on the restored one. We're going to do a full recap of these keyboards and then also do a rebushing. This key sticks. The keyboards are very noisy, so they need new bushings and key contacts cleaned, etc. Also, the original sliders are super stiff, and I'm sure they're very scratchy. And rather than take the time to desolder those, disassemble them, clean them, and put them back together, the end result would be a clean but kind of cheap feeling slider. We're going to install my LED replacement slider kit in both of these, and I've made it a special custom order since these were Bernie Worrell's keyboards. The LED color is going to be purple. So that should be kind of special. So I will move one of these out of the way and show you how we open this up to begin service on it. I've done a previous video series where I serviced and restored an ARP Pro DGX. And the Pro DGX is basically the same keyboard as the Pro Soloist. The difference is instead of having the switches that you turn for the voices, it's got push buttons and LED that lights up and shows you which voice is selected. But circuit-wise and layout-wise, they're pretty much the same. The Pro DGX is a lot easier to service though, because the top of the keyboard folds open, giving you easy access to the circuit boards. The Pro Soloist is a little more difficult. It wasn't really designed for people to be working on it, and it's difficult to access all the components to service it. So the way that we would get inside this keyboard is by turning it up on its back and removing the feet. So I've kind of loosened them already with a screwdriver, and there will be there's 4 on this one, but there should be 6. One here, one here, one here, and so on. So we'll remove the back panel, and that'll give us access to what's inside. The bottom panel, rather. And this is the only way into the keyboard. So then we remove the panel and set it aside. So this gives us access to all the guts. So I'm going to set it down on its back like such. And I will move the camera so you can see a little better what's inside. So I've turned the keyboard over, which gives us the ability to view in at the boards. We're going to take all these boards out of the synthesizer. All of the boards except for the voice selection switchboard has a capacitor on it, so we're going to need to get them out to service them. But then that voice selection board we're going to swap with the one from the other case. So ARP lettered the boards A through G. This is board A. This is the one with the sliders on it. It's the waveform generator. It's not really an oscillator board like on a traditional analog synth. It doesn't track volts per octave across the full range of the keyboard. They call it the waveform generator. This is board B. Board B is an envelope generator. This is board C. Board C has the filter, and you can see that there's an ARP 4034 VCF submodule. It's an epoxy sealed submodule, so we're not going to be able to get in there and service the filter since it's a potted submodule. Board D is underneath here, so to get to it you have to remove the waveform generator board. Board D is the board that has the switches for the touch sensor effects, and that's of course the touch sensor effect board. It handles like the vibrato and the growl and wow and stuff like that. This is board E. Board E is the keyboard electronics. Basically it scans the keyboard, and when you press a note it converts it to a note code and an octave code, which is then passed to the waveform generator. It also has a trigger and gate detecting capability, which is sent to the envelope generator. And this board is it's supposed to be secured to the bottom of the key bed, and it's there's these standoffs, and they're not mounted in their holes. So this is about to fall out. You can see that the key contacts are kind of slipping out of the little plastic guides that hold them in, and if you were to push a key, it would not push the key contact into the bus bar. So I mean, there would be no chance of getting any sound out of this keyboard because none of the keys can make contact with the bus bar. Underneath the key bed, so this is the key bed here, and in order to service this we have to remove the key bed from the synthesizer. Beneath that is board F. Board F is the voice selection switchboard. There's no capacitors on it, and there's several different revisions of that board. Some rely on the switches entirely. I serviced an early Pro Soloist, and there were no ICs on the board. It was just solely switches. And then this is board G. This is the power supply, and we need to get that out and recap it. So these boards are kind of secured by these little trays, which are supposed to be riveted or welded to the case, and this one's come off. So we're going to need to refasten that in so the boards don't shift around once we reinstall them. First thing we're going to remove is the key bed. So I've disconnected this connector, and I'm going to unscrew 4 screws which hold the key bed to the case. So take these out. There's 2 here on the left, and there's 2 on the right. Now the keyboard's no longer secured to the case, and I'll get these wires out of the way for the switch, and then lift it up. So there's still another connector that needs to come off, and there was no clearance to get it before. This is the connection to board B. So I've removed that, and now I can lift this out. And on the Pro Soloist, the touch sensor is hardwired to the board A. So the touch sensor when you push a note harder than others, it provides an effect. And this is hardwired in there on board A. And we're going to be replacing the touch sensor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut the wire to remove it. Normally you would desolder it, but in this case we're going to be replacing it. So now the keyboard is removed. And while I'm down here, in order to remove this this board, you have to desolder these connections from the bus bar. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 connections from this board to the bus bar, and then you can just slide these out of the little plastic guides there. And then there's one capacitor on there, but we're also going to clean up and straighten these wires, which some of which seem quite a bit bent. So I'm going to set the keyboard aside, and we'll do that later. Right now we're just disassembling, so I'll move the keyboard out of the way. Next thing I'm going to remove is the power supply. And the ARP Pro Soloist, again, is not the easiest user-friendly piece of equipment to service. And the power cord that comes in is hard soldered onto the circuit board here. But when I was taking a look at it, I noticed that the cable is cut open, and that's a potential safety hazard, since this is a mains voltage, and you know, if it is frayed and there's a live wire exposed and it touches some part of the case, that could be a hazard, a safety hazard. So we're going to have to replace this power cord, and it's held in place with a strain relief bushing. And there's a special tool that I have to pull those out. So I'm going to grab the tool and show you how I free up this power cord so we can remove the power supply. Before I pull the board out, the power supply board out, I'm going to disconnect it from the switch here, because these wires to the switch, they're also hard soldered to the board. So there's 3 quick connect tabs here, which I'll pull out. And then there's 4 screws that hold the power supply to the case. I'll turn it around and you can see. I'll go down to the other side. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see them on the other side. They come through here, 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 and here. So we're going to remove those and disconnect the quick connect tabs, and then I'll show you how to get the strain relief bushing out. I've removed the top screws of the power supply, and I have my strain relief bushing tool here, and I squeeze it, and then I can work the bushing out like that, and the bushing then opens up like this and slips off the cord, and I can save this and reuse it for the new power cord. But it looks like at some point someone took the power cord out and then put it back in, and I see, well, at least the ground wire, I see exposed copper on. So I don't know if it's hard to see through there if any of the other conductors have been nicked, but I don't want to take any chances with someone's safety. Next board we're going to remove is board A here. That board was only being held in by 1 screw, which was loose, and there's you can see the sliders are very dirty. So these, you know, we're going to replace them, but there would be no getting around either replacing them or removing them and completely disassembling them and cleaning them up. Unfortunately, it looks like one of the posts that holds secures this board to the case, one of the standoffs is sheared off there. Looks like even maybe someone tried to repair it at some point. But we're going to have to figure out how to get that back in there so that board is secure and it doesn't wiggle around. So this board is another one that can be challenging to remove because it has some wires that are hard soldered to an output jack. So we're going to disconnect the connector to board C, and then I'm going to just kind of move this over the back side for now. And then when we have access to that jack, I'll finish removing it. The next boards that we'll remove are the switch boards for the voices and for the touch sensor. But before we do that, I'm going to vacuum up some of the stuff that's in here. So I'll take those boards out, and then I'll remove these last two boards. I'll get that jack out, and then I can get the case out of the way. I've got all the boards removed from the first keyboard. So we got the keyboard electronics board, board A with the sliders, which is still connected to board C by one wire here, and that I removed the jack. I desoldered the hard soldered high output RCA jack. Board D and board B are still connected. This is board F, the switchboard, the power supply. If I wanted to, I could actually connect these together, and we might do that after we're done recapping and working on these boards. But the first thing that we're going to do is recap the boards, and I have a kit that I sell on my website, synthchaser.com, and it comes with all the capacitors that you need to recap this. Every electrolytic and tantalum capacitor in the keyboard is going to be changed. I took two kits and I unloaded them into little parts bins. So I'm going to get the second keyboard out of its case, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to recap all these boards, and I'll let you know if I see anything interesting as I go along.